Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Beveninos, Fright fans, welcoming you once again to the Horror Show. Thank you so very much. You got just Fuego here today, and this is a little bit of like award season coverage here on our Spooktacular channel because of the fact that, Bong Joon-ho, who is the director of Snowpiercer, The Host, and yes, he's an esteemed guy from Korea that has just received lots of acclaim over the years as it is, but his latest, which is entitled Parasite, not quite horror, but I don't know, it's been showing up on different horror lists and stuff, and so for that reason, I was going to see it regardless, and I was debating should it be on my personal channel or if it should be here in the Horror Show, but yes, we think more eyes will get on it here, and with good reason, because this is definitely one of the best movies I've seen this year, but once again, not particularly horror. It's more so thriller with like social satire, drama, comedic aspect, and then it does blend in some horror in the final act. So it's really a hodgepodge, like interesting mixing pot of a ton of different things. And so, we always do our, little tropes of just overall impressions, story, acting, sound design and music and stuff like that, any visual effects, gore and whatnot. So overall impression, I came into this movie with a lot of hype being heaped upon me. And for that reason, I feel like unless it just absolutely knocked me on my ass, I was bound to be a little bit disappointed. And I guess I was a little bit disappointed, but just the tiniest, eetsiest bit. Once again, Fright fans, it's not a horror film. But even from like a purely dramatic thriller with some comedy sprinkled in standpoint, well, I understood the social relevance of like class warfare and just deception that this film epitomizes and does it in a razor sharp fashion. I think it was more so just the fact that the story didn't speak to me as much as it has so many other people. I've seen it on a lot of best of lists for both horror critics and just traditional critics, but yes, I still have to praise the filmmaking, the acting. I mean, it still is one of the better films that I've seen this year, but I mean, it definitely wasn't horror enough to show up on, this channel's best ofs, as you will eventually see, and then it's not in my top 10, on my own personal channel in Fuegotainment, but that's not to say that it doesn't tell an intriguing story, and there is some guessing that goes down as far as like where is this all going to go. It does keep you on the edge of your seat, which I would never deter somebody from watching this film, and it's not because it's a foreign film that had donuts to do with it, just to assure everybody. But yeah, I liked the story a good bit, so let's just get into that. Overall impressions, I really liked it, but I didn't love it, and I don't think it's I don't think it's this monumental, exceptional example of filmmaking like a lot of people are proclaiming it to be. I think they're just, I don't know, they're just getting too sucked up into the hype and stuff like that. So yes, it's very, very good though. And the tale that it tells is there is this impoverished family in South Korea, and they are like, there's a brother and a sister and a mother and a father, and they're living in these slums, and they're all trying to find work. And the brother of this family, he has this friend. He was getting ready to go off to university, and he has been tutoring this young, very rich girl in this extremely well-to-do family. The father works for this prestigious company, so they're very, very well off, extremely rich, beautiful home, lots of money to spare, and no expense, they're just sparing no expense, I should specify, on just trying to make sure that both of their children get all of the tutelage and instruction necessary to be the most successful that they can be. And so his friend, the brother of this impoverished family, he has been tutoring this girl and trying to teach her English, and yet since he's going off to school, he's no longer going to be able to do that. He has kind of a thing for her, and he's like, yes, she's underage, so I have to wait till she's ready to, graduate and be a woman and stuff, and then I'm going to make my move. He tells this to his friend, and but he's like, how about I say that you can go and instruct her in this fashion, and I just kind of give your recommendations so you can get your foot in the door, and in turn, just make the best of it, but stay away from my girl, is essentially what he says. And it turns into a very interesting scenario because the family this rich family, I should specify, that he goes to work for, there is an immense amount of just naivety, and with naivety comes the ability for manipulation and deception, and that is where things go. I don't really want to spoil too much because the most intriguing thing is just how the story kind of spirals from here, because after he gets his foot in the door and starts instructing, this daughter of the rich family, then he realizes that, in turn, the daughter of this rich family's younger brother, who is much, much younger, he's like just a boy basically, but that he has like art-centric tendencies, and so he paints and does all of this different stuff, and so he decides to recommend, oh, how about we find somebody to help out with some art instruction for him a couple times a week, and he cherry picks somebody for that, and in turn, it just kind of, this is where I don't want to spoil it necessarily, because the story is actually incredibly well written in how everything just kind of snowball going down hills from there. But yeah, it just turns into him finding more and more people that he knows, I guess, to recommend for different things to do for this family. And in every case, there's kind of a misrepresentation about the skill. And in some cases, it's not really that much of a misrepresentation, but there is a lot of strings being pulled, and that's where we get some dark comedy, we get some very, just genuinely humorous aspects, period, but the thriller aspect really hits in, like, the back half of the second act, early third act, and that's where we do, in fact, get some of those horror possibilities that I mentioned, because there are secrets that are revealed, not just about, our, poor kid who goes to tutor, but also about the rich family, I guess. This is where I'm walking on eggshells, because I don't want to... The best part of this film is actually just seeing, you're like, oh, are they seriously going to do that after that? And it kind of builds on itself in that regard. And so I champion the script specifically. The acting, to segue into that as well, is tremendous throughout there is not a missing link in the entirety, from, just the smug, just kind of, they care but they don't really care-ness of this rich family, to the almost con artistiness of, not just the kid who not the kid, the young adult, boy in this poor family that goes to tutor and whatnot, but that just everyone connected with him that he kind of brings in. Everybody is just doing a hell of a job in this. The acting is very much one of the most stellar aspects, along with the storytelling. It's just, segueing back to the overall impressions, is the fact that the story just didn't speak as much to me, but, the younger sister, who is, she's got kind of a, con artistiness about herself as well. Really, the entire family is just trying to raise their economic status, and that's, the whole message of the film, and the underlying aspect that they don't necessarily beat you over the head with it, which is the appreciative part. It's not Black Christmas in its message, thank the Lord. It's subtle, and there is something to smart subtlety and just building in messages like this into a film that at its surface level is just about, people, like, just the rich getting manipulated, essentially. But yeah, there is still a tenderness and a caring aspect to, the rich family, and the relationship that is formed between these two families to a degree over time. And they have great chemistry, and the acting on both sides, both on the rich and the poor level, is very, very solid. Sound design, it's scored terrifically. All of Bong's films, whether The Host and Snowpiercer, and he also had that Netflix film Ozark, I want to say, that was also very interesting. He gives the attention to those sonic details and stuff. The score has some classical flourishes at times that I greatly appreciated as well. And so, they're just the quick edits that he does in certain bits, they wouldn't work as well without little musical flourishes, and without just, I don't know, the little sonic, like, bits that transpire with some of these quick cuts that he does. And it just makes some of these almost montage-y sequences where some of the con artisty manipulation is going down that much more compelling because of the sonic aspect. As far as, like, how it's shot, it's beautifully shot. Everything that this dude has done, the camera work is fluid. It just draws you along. And the way he shoots, like, the slums that this, impoverished family dwells within, fascinatingly and just sympathetically, and then you see this beautiful home that this rich family that is slowly being infiltrated, resides in, and it's gorgeous. The locations were all just tremendously chosen as well, and everything looks great. It is a beautiful, beautiful looking film. As far as practical and stuff, there's really nothing as far as practical gore until the very end. It's really just the extravagance of the set design, the terrific costuming, just the beauty of Seoul, South Korea, where the predominance of this takes place. He shoots the hell out of this city, and it's a sight to behold, and yet more so than anything, it's the writing and the compelling interaction between these characters and how everything, as I said, just builds upon itself. Horror fans will be moderately satisfied by some of the stuff that happens in the third act, but once again, the story is something that the best part of the ride is not exactly knowing where this is going, and that's why I've had to be very, very just kind of casual and not supremely specific about everything that goes down in this film. But I feel like there are a lot of horror fans that would appreciate a good amount of this. If you're more like a gore hound, or especially if you don't like reading subtitles, I can't recommend this to you in that regard. You will not find any sense of fulfillment. You'll probably find the film boring. And one detraction I will say with final thoughts here is that it is a little long in the tooth. They could have probably shaved about 10-15 minutes, and the runtime would have been less than 2 hours at that point. It might have been a little bit tighter of a film because it's just very sharply edited, especially early on, and with some of the stuff that happens at the back half of the first and opening of the second act, where we really start to see the scope of what's going to happen here. But then it does kind of drag, and so that's where I feel like a little bit of trimming might have been slightly better. But everyone seems to love this film a whole lot more than me. I've seen it top a lot of lists of critics that I really, really respect. And so, I don't know if all of the thoughts and impressions that I've given thus far intrigue you. Once again, not horror, but, it's a melding of so many different things between dark comedy, thriller, dramatic aspects, underlining social subtext, and a little bit of horror. With a reveal that happens at near the end of the film. I cannot deter people from watching it if it does seem like your jam. So I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. But you're obviously watching the spooktacular stuff, so make sure, if you're just stumbling upon this video, to subscribe here, like and share this video. And if you are interested in telling us what to review, look in the link in the description below for our Patreon page. That's where we have all kinds of different tiers where you can ask us to do film reviews. You can specify commentaries if you want to see us talk throughout the entirety of a movie and give our thoughts. And there's lots of other higher tiers, above that, like boo boxes, all kinds of coolness. So get that information. Tell us what to do. We always appreciate the insight. And I guess that's going to be the end of the scary proceedings, everybody. So I've been Fuego. Y'all have been awesome. And until next time, remember, Fright fans, to stay scared.